How are you doing, folks? We left off in the last video of this MGB with me removing the left hand wing and making a start on removing the electrical harness. I had great intentions on cleaning things and painting things in that video, and it didn't happen just through time constraints. So today's another day, so that is definitely what we're going to do today. And if I don't do it today, I'm going to put it all in one video anyway, so as far as you're concerned, it'll all be done in this video. So let's get stuck in. First thing we need to do is we need to clear out the engine bay completely. So I want to get all the last of the pipe work out, get some wiring out of the way, and basically I want to get the oil cooler out so I can remove that panel that goes around the radiator and get it ready for paint, and then we can start cleaning. These horns aren't original. I know, because first of all they have a metric nut on them, and secondly they have spade terminals on it, and thirdly they've got purple spray paint on them, so that would suggest to me that there's been some respraying done on the front of this car at some stage. Nonetheless, if they work they'll go back in. One of the spade connectors on one of them is missing, so we may end up having to replace that, and if I have to replace both of them I'll try and get a second-hand original pair. Okay, I've progressed things a bit off camera and got it to a point now where I'm happy enough to kind of get it outside and give it a pressure wash. So you can see there's still a few bits and pieces in there, but for the most part all the stuff has been taken out. I will take that brake line out there as well. It's just a case of getting it, moving the car out and getting at a screw underneath. I'll cover over the freshly painted, it is actually freshly painted, cross member and all that as well. Make sure that no harm comes to it, and I have taken the time to hoover out either side there and there to try and get any of the crud out, and same where the heater box draws from, so we'll be able to kind of prepare that for some rust proofing, and basically yeah, that should work out all right for us. So let's get it outside. It's been a while since this car has been outdoors and seen the light of day anyway, so just a case now spraying it all down and getting a pressure washer on it. So I'll show you what I'm going to use to clean it up. This bottle contains a 50-50 mix of elbow grease, which is what it says on the bottle, and this stuff, which is Tank Clean SP10, and it's very caustic and very stinky and not something you would want to use indoors, but my god is it effective. First thing I did was get the Toyota out of the way, because the last thing I need is to get the SP10 all over it, because it will ruin the paint on it. So yeah, I'm not too worried about under the engine bay of the MG though, all the same, but I will cover over the cross member. The engine bay is now as good as I need it. So what I'll be doing after this point is giving it a wipe down with some panel wipe and giving it a coat of primer. So that should see things pretty good in that respect. But I need to do more on the car as well, so I'll keep going. Okay, I think that'll do us for a preliminary clean anyway around the back end. Obviously I'm going to get a bit more stuck into it when I'm doing the floor pans and all that sort of stuff, but for the moment it means that at least when I'm taking the back axle out of it, there's not going to be big clumps of dirt falling out along with it. It wasn't as bad as the front end anyway, to tell you the truth. So yeah, I'm hoping that the back axle restoration will be a nice handy job by comparison to the front suspension. The springs look to be okay. It's got telescopic dampers fitted, which is quite interesting. I bought a new fuel tank, by the way, so you'll notice I didn't spend too much time cleaning the fuel tank that's in it, because they always rot. It'll be rotten on the top and it'll be like a bucket essentially, you know, and there'll be no top on it. So yeah, I'm going to change that as a matter of course anyway. The bottom of it is rotten as well, and it'll be full of crap. So rather than trying to clean all of that out, I just don't have the patience for it. So yeah, just have a quick look around the wheel arches. You can see here the inner arches are in very, very good order. There's no kind of major rot on any of the floor pans. The only kind of major rot under the car is on the boot floor at the very back end of the car, and hopefully that'll be relatively easy to remedy, especially when I have the fuel tank out of it and the back axle and all that. So yeah, I mean, look, first things first. Let's get the front end of the car into paint, and then at least we can kind of start moving ahead with that. I'm not going to touch the back end for another few months yet. Okay, so we're into day 2 of the process that's being shown in this video, and essentially what's happened now is everything has dried out a bit, so we can actually have a look around and see what we're dealing with. So let's just go around the car and see how we're looking. Starting with under the bonnet, it's all looking superficially pretty decent, but I have to go over everything with panel wipe and make sure everything is pretty much surgically clean under here before I can apply any kind of rust converter or anything like that. You'll see the shelf along here has already been done, so I don't really need to do anything with that anymore. It's actually already as good as it needs to be, simply because of the fact that I actually did already use the rust converter there. These are the areas of concern. Now you'll see that, like, you know, it's only a bit of surface rust and marking and stuff like that. So I'm going to go around it with a wire wheel, take off any loose scale, and just kind of get it ready for paint. I've taken off the likes of the data plates, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind this back, because this is an area that you really see very. It's very visible when you open the engine lid. So might take that engine the bonnet catch off as well. Actually, while I'm at it. May as well. The bonnet, I'm going to treat it as a separate entity. I gave it a quick blow over with some etch primer just to see how it kind of shaped up, but obviously it's going to need a lot more work than that. But yeah, so that's under the bonnet. The inner wings are a bit more of an issue, simply because of the fact that, you know, I mean, I have to do a really, really good job of rust proofing in here, and I want to just grind back under there, make sure that there isn't any kind of rust creeping through. It seems to be okay superficially, but my kind of biggest headache under here, I reckon, is going to be to remove all of this underseal. It's like there's a, it looks like shuts or something like that was put under here. So I need to try and remove that before kind of treating and painting it. I did raise the question on one of the forums as to whether or not I think the car may have originally been beige. I think that beige is actually just primer, because if they had painted it purple, they went to a hell of a lot of effort to do that. You know, I mean, I suppose the thing is what I'm seeing is a lot of kind of like under the dashboard is all completely under the dashboard is all purple. In around the inner quarters and the rear and everything is all purple. And it's only when you kind of get rid of some of the underseal and everything you start to see that beige. So yeah, I think that's primer. The only other thing it could be really is if it was a cut and shut with a between a beige car on the front and it doesn't even bear thinking about. No, I'm not going down that route. I'm not going to start trying to panic myself. Anyway, let's start with under the engine bay and get stuck in there. When it comes to car restorations, it's the bits you don't see that present the biggest problems. This is underneath the, essentially the inlet to the radiator, forward of the engine bay. And you can see like there's the mounts for the anti-roll bar. But yeah, like there was underseal all over this. So with between a combination of a chisel and a scraper and the grinder, I was able to remove all of the underseal from it. But I can tell you now, the underseal is well on there. Some of it I'm kind of wondering, should I just leave it alone, because if it's that well on there, it's still doing its job. Although there again, I suppose I'm going to be using different stuff. Suffice it to say, it's a faff one way or another. But to be honest with you, what I'll do is I'm going to just, the way that is there, I'm going to just slap on a load of the Hydrate 80. It should be pretty alright at this stage. I know there's broken bolts. I don't have the tools with me to remove them at this moment in time, nor do I have the headspace to do it, to tell you the truth. So broken bolts are the bane of my life, and this car, they're everywhere. So, you know, look, all we can do is just keep progressing, and we'll get there in the end. But this is going to be the kind of a long-term project. So anyway, right, look, I'm gonna get set up with the paint, and I'm gonna get set up with some panel wipe as well, and we're gonna start wiping everything down and making sure it's as close to surgically clean as I can get it. This is just a preliminary wipe. I can guarantee you, have a look at the dirt on that, like, we're gonna go through a lot of this stuff to get this engine bay clean enough to paint. Dirtier than I thought it was, to tell you the truth. This is after I pressure washed it. Gunge down there, just sitting in the corners of the chassis rails. It's just been an absolute nuisance to try and remove. I put this panel wipe in a spray bottle. It's the only thing for it. And I spray a load of it on. First of all, get the heaviest of the stuff off. And then you can go from there. I've switched to some heavier duty stuff, folks. Gunk. There's too much dirt still here to be trying to get at it with the panel wipe. It's just not, we're not at that stage yet, so. The dirt just seems to be coming out of the pores of this poxy car. Oh my God. There's no end to it. just have to keep going until it's all gone. Every last poxy bit of it. Okay, it's as good as I'm going to get it, to be honest with you. I must have been about an hour at this now, at this stage. It's driving me mental. So what I'm going to do is I just have a little mini air compressor. I'm going to just blow off all the last bit of dust and stuff like that out of there. And I'm going to go to town with the Hydrate 80 and I'm going to just coat everything that I see under there. Except for the bits that are already painted black, which don't need to be done, but everything else will be done. And then what we can do is, once that's all done, I can give it a coat of acid etch primer, and it will then get a coat of the purple paint, which I have. My dad picked it up for me, so he'll be bringing it down when I see him the next time. So yeah, anyway, I'll show you around a little bit and you can see how I got on. As I said, there's a bit of dust here and there that needs to be blown out, but I mean, by and large, it's pretty decent, to be honest with you. I think it's as good as it needs to be. You know, look at, I could literally spend weeks at this alone and get nowhere with it. So yeah, get the compressor going and blow that out, Hydrate 80, and then I'll get onto the inner wings, the outside part of the inner wings. Okay, so that's as far as I'm going today, but I'll bring it back in this video the next day I'm here, so this will all still be one video. But you'll see in certain areas here, for example, that the Hydrate 80 actually dries black, and any brush strokes or any marks like that won't really be seen by the time it's actually dried. And then what we can do is we can give it a coat of primer in the engine bay. I'll use etch primer and a couple of coats of that. Then we could start getting the purple onto it in under the engine bay. Now, fortunately enough, I didn't find any rot in around the engine bay. You will have seen me painting some areas that obviously need attention in around the inner wings and that, but the reason being is because I do know I need to address those areas, but when I come back to them, at least the surrounding metal will be painted and treated, and it's not, and any rust isn't going to progress any further as well, for that matter. So yeah, I mean, okay, fair enough, we're indoors and all that as well, but it's a rust converter as well, so it'll certainly help things along, and any kind of flaky metal or anything like that, I will be replacing with good metal. So yeah, it's starting to come together, now inner wings then will be painted with black 2-pack epoxy, and then I'll give them a coat of shuts as well. But you'll see here, I haven't tackled in around the actual wheel itself in the wheel well, simply because of the fact that I need to think of a way of actually removing all of the underseal there, an effective way of removing it, because that's all under the car as well, and you know, it's going to break my heart that the little bit underneath the front of the engine bay was an absolute nightmare to remove. So I need to think of a good way of removing that, and then when I have that removed, then I can treat all that area as well. It'll be a long time before the front wings are going back onto this car, so we have plenty of time. I gave the bonnet a wipe with some panel wipe just to see how the colour comes up. It's swirl marks and scratches to beat the band, you know, but I mean, look at it, shows the colour really well. I absolutely love this colour. I wasn't sure on it when I got the car, but I've really come around to it, and it is going to look so cool when it's all done up. And it gets a respray. Of course it's staying the same colour. But one thing that I do find remarkable, there are cat's paw prints on the bonnet that have been there since before I got the car. And I've used several cleaning products on this bonnet just to try and bring back some sort of a shine to it and stuff like that. And the cat's paw prints remain. I mean, did the cat walk in acid before it walked on the bonnet or something like that? There you go. I mean, look at that for a colour. Isn't that just the business? I pushed it up into the light so I could have a proper look at it. And the Hydrate 80 is now dry, and does it not look the business, folks? So definitely progress there. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a coat of etch primer, and I'm not going to be too worried about overspray on the external body panels, but what I do want to do is I want to mask up the things like the wiring harness that I haven't removed, because I hate the look of a wiring harness that has overspray on it. There's very few things that annoy me more than that, and it really is just a height of laziness. So I'm going to make sure that the wiring harness is properly masked up, any extra pipe work and stuff like that I'm going to be leaving in place, and of course the subframe as well, which is painted, and I don't want to get overspray on. So yeah, that's job number one. And job number two is I had to go with a chisel here at removing some of the underseal around the wheel arch, and it seems to have done a fairly effective job. So I'm going to keep going with that, and then I'm going to give it a tickle with a wire wheel on the drill just to remove the last remaining bits. And I'm going to give it a coat of something in there as well too, probably the Hydrate 80, although I'm running very low on it, so I doubt I'll have enough left. I assume this brake pipe will be getting replaced, but until I know for sure, I may as well mask it up, because I don't want to have to remove paint from it because I decided to keep it. Most people use newspapers if they're doing this type of thing. I don't read newspapers, so I never have any. But what I do have is blue roll, so that's why I'm using this. I have some large rags for covering over the subframe as well, so that'll do the job for that. Okay, let's get a coat of paint on here, and then after that, while that first coat is drying, I'm going to set about scraping back the inner arches, and we'll see how we go from there. As if somebody was telling me to get away from it or something like that. I'm after clattering my head off the bloody inside of the bonnet. Ah! Jesus. Anyway, where does all the dust come from? I need to get the air compressor on this and just blow it off before I paint anything. It's a battery powered air compressor I have, Ryobi thing. It's quite handy, but it doesn't last very long when you're using the blowgun or anything else for that matter. It's handy, but you wouldn't be using big air tools on it. Okay, I'm in out of the sun so I can see who I'm talking to here. That's a coat of etch primer put down on the entire engine bay, and yeah, I'm happy with how it turned out. Perfect it is not. It is definitely not perfect. Actually, it's far from it. But this is not going to be a concourse car, folks, and it's certainly going to be presentable enough. It'll be a 10-foot car, you know. I mean, somebody will see it from 10 foot or passing them in traffic and say, actually, that looks really well. And then the outside of the car will have a really, really nice paint job on it. So that's where it's really going to count. Under the engine bay, my main concern is just to take the rough look off it and to kind of, you know, have it looking well, but still a 45-year-old car, like, you know, 47-year-old actually. So yeah, anyway, right, so that's that. So let's have a look at the inner wings and see how they're looking. Here we have a chisel, and this is the underseal that I need to remove. So what I'm going to try and do is, I'm going to scrape as much of it off as I can with the chisel and see how I get on. Some of it will come off easily, some of it probably not. But I don't want to go using power tools just yet because the primer isn't completely dry, and I don't want to end up with stuff flying all over the place and it sticking to the primer. This could take a while. Okay, I spent a good 45 minutes scraping away like a madman here and made good headway. I'll show you what I've got done. So all of that is cleaned back to the point where probably a rubber solvent will get the last of it off. That there has been painted and treated with the Hydrate 80, so that should be pretty all right there. Now, there are some areas of concern, which, to be honest, I expected, but it's still a hell of a lot better than I expected. So, there's one of them. So if I put my finger in there, that's where the passenger's feet would be in there. So that's one place a patch is going to be needed. So not the most difficult area to work on. It's just a flat square piece of metal. And anyway, I'm going to have to remake this piece down here as well. So it'll just really be a continuation of that, brought up here and a diagonal across there. The other area is underneath the car. So if you can imagine coming down from here is where your passenger's feet are, then this is kind of the return panel that comes down towards the floor panel, and it's gone there as well. So that's going to need addressing, and there's a little bit of a hole here. Now, I did scrape back the floor pan, so that is all looking very, very tidy indeed, folks. Even the outrigger here and out to the jacking point are all completely solid. You know, I mean, that chassis rail there, the main chassis rail, geez, I couldn't ask for better than that. So really it's just a case of getting a knotted wire wheel for the grinder, one of the better ones than the one I have. The knotted wire wheel I actually do have, you might have seen me using when I was doing the job on the front bumper. It'd take the hand off you. The vibration that comes through the grinder is crazy, and you get a kind of a gyroscope effect from it, so I really don't like it. So I won't be using that too often. It's too hard to manage. So anyway, right, yeah, so we're looking pretty positive. As I said, a few areas that need to be taken care of. The next kind of thing I need to do is, obviously the engine bay now needs a coat of paint, the purple paint, and then that should be looking pretty good. So yeah, then at that stage, once the kind of the purple paint is on and dry and everything like that, I can start bolting a few bits back into the engine bay, and that'll be a nice sense of accomplishment. But the other thing I need to do is I need to take out the windscreen, because around the windscreen frame you'll see just even areas like that. Then you come down around here, down the bottom corner, like it's feeling very crispy. And to be honest with you, I would be very surprised if I wasn't able to put my finger through that. And around here you can feel bubbles as well. So the whole scuttle really needs to be ground back. In an ideal world, the repair panel for the scuttle wouldn't cost like 500 or 600 quid, and I'd be able to just buy that and weld it in, but it's crazy money, so I'm going to just have to repair it. And obviously, when it comes to getting second-hand spares, they all go in the same area, so it's not really a practical solution. But yeah, I mean, you can see around here. Now, I just sprayed that with a bit of etch primer just to kind of keep the rust a little bit at bay, but you know, it needs to still come through the etch primer. It was only just a single quick coat. Yeah. So this is the right hand inner arch, and I still obviously have to scrape this all back. So that's going to take another bit of doing, and I'm not doing that today. To tell you the truth though, I am actually really happy with how that shaped up. You know, it's going to be more than good enough for my purposes. You know, it doesn't need to be perfect. The other thing I need to do is I need to get some treatment in around where the heater box is going to go. I got some of the Hydrate 80 down in there, but I need to come up with something that's going to be a bit more sort of heavy duty, because that's an area where a lot of rainwater is going to get in. Okay folks, it is time to get some purple paint onto the engine bay in this car. So yeah, I got 2 cans mixed up, so definitely have enough for this job, and I wanted a bit for some other jobs I may decide to do in the process. Like I'll probably be doing underneath the dashboard and stuff like that, so the likelihood is I'll probably end up painting that as well before, instead of having to kind of leave the car in such a stripped state for the bodywork. So what I want to do is, before I start laying down top coat, I want to just rub a few areas back just to kind of take the roughness off them. It doesn't, as I said, need to be perfect, but it certainly can be a lot better with just a little bit of rubbing. So yeah, I'll just let you have a quick look the way it is at the moment. So you can see here, I mean, it came up well, but like, I mean, the likes of there, sorry about the flickering there, it's just when you get close to the light it tends to do that for some reason. Frame rate actually is the reason. But yeah, so that is quite rough there at the moment, and there's some other areas are kind of, when I say rough, just coarse, you know, and it can be done a lot better, a lot neater, you know. And I'll just give it a final wipe down with some panel wipe, and then we'll start laying on some top coat and seeing how this shapes up. I'm looking forward to seeing the end result. going to be honest with you folks, this is pretty exciting because this is the first thing that I've really put back onto this car, the first major thing that I've put onto this car rather than taking off. Except maybe the front subframe. I kind of forgot about that one. So we're now at the point where the engine bay is painted, and doesn't that look sexy? You know what, I really like that purple, to be honest with you. It just looks to business. I'll just stand back and just let you have a look at that and bask in its glory. I'm absolutely chuffed to bits with that now. That is really nice. And yeah, it just makes, it's spurring me on to do the kind of the next thing with the car, you know, and kind of get it sort of to the next stage. The next thing, probably the next big thing will be, there'll be a bit more body work to do, and then I can start putting the engine back together. So yeah, I mean, look, it's all about allocating time and everything as well. Incidentally, I am editing this video with a new editing software, so you might see a few changes in how I have put my video together, and let me know what you think, if you think it looks well, or if you like my kind of slight change in style or whatever, or if you think, you know, it's too commercial. Please do let me know in the comments. I value your opinions, you know, that's what keeps me going in these situations. But anyway, look, we're going to leave it there because I'm not going to do any more than this. I mean, obviously the bonnet is going to be treated as a separate entity. I'm not going to touch that at the moment. But for the moment, engine bay is painted. And when you see the engine in there now, with all the shiny bits bolted onto it, the engine painted in nice, it'll be painted black because the black is the original colour. I was asking my friend Darren about that, asking for his opinion. He reckons go with the black, and I think I would go with the black because the alternative is red, which would be the kind of the older MGB engine block colour, but red and purple just clash like hell. So yeah, let's leave it there, folks, and I'll see you in a future video.